let's talk about something most people overlook, especially after they cross the age of 60. It's not a medication, not a workout plan, and certainly not some miracle supplement. It's protein. More specifically, it's the consistent daily intake of protein and the shocking number of people who unintentionally neglect it. You see, your body doesn't stop needing protein as you get older. In fact, it needs more of it. Yet many older adults begin consuming less, often without realizing the consequences. Now here's the part that's counterintuitive. Most people assume muscle loss is just a natural part of aging. And yes, it's true. There's a condition called sarcopenia, the gradual decline in muscle mass that comes with age. But that process isn't inevitable. It's not just about aging, it's about undernourishing. If you're skipping protein, especially at the beginning of your day, you're basically handing your muscles a surrender notice. You're telling them, we don't need you anymore. What's fascinating and deeply concerning is that your body becomes less efficient at processing protein as you age. This is known as anabolic resistance. Think of it like a weaker Wi-Fi signal. What used to take 20 grams of protein now may take 30 or 35 to get the same muscle response. Your body just doesn't hear the message as loudly. So if you're still eating like you did in your 30S or 40S, that's not maintenance mode anymore. That's muscle breakdown mode. Slowly, quietly, consistently. Let's make this even clearer. Picture your muscle tissue like a bank account. Every time you consume protein, especially complete proteins, you're making a deposit. Every time you skip a meal or rely on toast and coffee for breakfast, you're withdrawing from that account. And when the withdrawals outweigh the deposits, you go into debt. That debt doesn't just feel like weakness, it becomes weakness. Balance problems, poor posture, slower walking speed, and eventually a higher risk of falls, hospitalizations, and loss of independence. Now you might say, but I eat chicken at dinner. Sure, that's a start, but here's where the daily rhythm matters. Most older adults consume the majority of their protein at dinner, leaving breakfast and lunch devoid of the very nutrient their muscles are crying out for. The latest research tells us that the body prefers evenly distributed protein throughout the day, about 25 to 30 grams per meal for older adults. That means your muscles need a solid breakfast, not just coffee and toast. Think Greek yogurt with seeds, tofu scramble, or a protein smoothie. Simple changes, massive impact. And here's a deeper truth. This isn't just a biological issue. It's also a psychological one. Many of us were raised to believe that protein is for the young and strong, for athletes and bodybuilders. Somewhere along the line, we start associating aging with shrinking meals, shrinking activity, shrinking expectations. But shrinking your nutrition is not an act of wisdom. It's an act of surrender. And you're stronger than that. There's a philosophy I often return to. What you nourish survives, what you neglect withers. Muscle is not just tissue, it's your independence. It's your ability to lift your grandchild, walk up a hill, or carry groceries without pain. It's tied directly to your metabolism, your insulin response, even your brain health. So when you underfeed your body, you're not just cutting calories, you're cutting the very threads that hold your vitality together. Let me share something many people find surprising. Studies show that older adults who increase their protein intake, not just randomly, but strategically, can build muscle even into their 70s and 80s. That's right, your body is still capable of rebuilding, of growing, of adapting, but only if you give it the raw materials it needs. Protein is not a luxury. It's not optional. It's the currency of strength. And no, you don't need a fancy gym membership to benefit from it. You just need to be intentional. Look at your plate and ask, where is my protein? Build your meals around it. Prioritize it at breakfast. Don't rely on dinner alone to do the heavy lifting. And if you're struggling to eat enough, plant-based options like lentils, quinoa, edamame, chia seeds, and yes, even a clean protein powder can help close the gap. So if you've been feeling weaker, more tired, or frustrated by a body that doesn't respond the way it used to, don't assume it's just aging. Ask yourself, am I giving my muscles a reason to stay? Am I feeding them what they need to serve me for the next 20, 30, even 40 years? Because the truth is, the moment you start feeding your strength, your body listens. Don't let neglect speak louder than nourishment. Choose to make deposits today, and your future self will rise to thank you. Let's take a moment to talk about something that sounds simple, but has a profound impact on your health. Movement, not exercise in the formal sense, but daily, consistent movements. One of the most critical and most overlooked mistakes people make after 60 is becoming too sedentary. And I'm not just talking about skipping workouts. I'm talking about the hours and hours of sitting that slowly chip away at your muscle, your strength, and your independence. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, like erosion. A missed walk here, a skip stair there. Then one day, the body you used to trust doesn't move the way it used to. And we often equate muscle loss with aging, but here's the deeper truth. More often than not, it's not age, it's inactivity. You see, your muscles work on a use it or lose it principle. They respond to demand, they adapt to the challenges you give them. But when there's no challenge, when you stop asking your muscles to lift, to walk, to stretch, they shrink. It's not a punishment, it's biology. The body conserves energy. If it doesn't need to maintain muscle, it won't. And unfortunately, when we adopt a more sedentary lifestyle, we're telling our body just that. I don't need you to be strong anymore. And yet, this is entirely within our control. You don't need a gym or a trainer or even a fancy plan to break the cycle. What you do need is consistency, purpose, intention, small, regular movement throughout the day, getting up every hour to walk around, doing some light stretching in the morning, using the stairs instead of the elevator. These aren't just suggestions. These are signals to your muscles. Stay alive, stay active, stay engaged. Now here's something fascinating and empowering. Research shows that even light physical activity done regularly can reduce the rate of muscle loss in older adults. And if you include some form of resistance, whether that's lifting a grocery bag, doing body weight squats, or using resistance bands at home, you stimulate something called muscle protein synthesis. That's your body's way of saying, okay, we're building, we're not done yet. In a world that's always telling you to slow down after 60, this is your opportunity to push back and say, no, I'm not done. And it's not just about muscle. Movement keeps your joints lubricated. It maintains your coordination and balance. It enhances your circulation, improving nutrient delivery to your tissues. And perhaps most importantly, it sharpens your mind. Regular movement has been shown to reduce the risk of cognitive decline. It boosts mood. It increases energy. When you move, you don't just strengthen your body, you awaken your mind. But let's go deeper than science. There's a philosophical truth here too. Movement is a declaration of life. It says, I'm still here, I'm still choosing to participate. When we stop moving, we begin to disconnect from our environment, from our independence, from ourselves. That's why this isn't just a physical issue, it's a deeply personal one. It's about how you see yourself. Are you someone who is winding down? Or are you someone who is still building, still growing, still living fully? It's not about running marathons or bench pressing your body weight. It's about walking around the block. It's about stretching in the morning. It's about standing while you talk on the phone or taking the long way through the grocery store. These aren't small things. They're anchors. They're habits. They're the foundation of vitality. And you don't have to do it perfectly. What matters is that you do it. Every step you take tells your muscles you matter. I need you, and your muscles respond in kind. They hold you up. They protect your joints. They help you recover when you fall, physically or metaphorically. This is why becoming too sedentary is such a dangerous mistake, because the less you move, the less you can move, and that cycle deepens quickly. But the good news? The reverse is also true. The more you move, even just a little, the more your body begins to remember. Strength returns, confidence returns, life returns. So I'll leave you with this. Your muscles aren't waiting for permission. They're waiting for action. Even a short walk, a light stretch, a moment of motion. These are not small gestures. They are powerful acts of renewal. Don't wait for a crisis to remind your body it matters. Move today so you can keep moving tomorrow. Let's talk about one of the most misunderstood elements of healthy aging. Not just what you eat, but how much of it you eat. A major mistake many people make after 60 is under-eating, especially when it comes to protein and essential nutrients. Now, on the surface, that might sound like a good thing. We often associate eating less with weight control, with discipline, even with health. But when it becomes a chronic pattern, particularly as we get older, under-eating can quietly drain the very vitality we're trying to preserve. You see, as we age, our bodies change in ways that make nutrition even more critical. We lose muscle mass more easily. Our ability to absorb certain nutrients like vitamin B12, calcium, and magnesium declines. And most importantly, our bodies become less efficient at using the protein we consume to rebuild and maintain muscle tissue. That means older adults need more protein per meal than younger people just to trigger the same level of muscle repair. But ironically, most people over 60 start eating less, not more. Why? For some, it's due to a reduced appetite. For others, it's a matter of habit, depression, or difficulty chewing or digesting food. But the outcome is the same: insufficient fuel for a system that's already running at a lower efficiency. And here's where it becomes a silent trap. You don't notice the impact right away, but over weeks and months, the consequences start to surface. Slower recovery from illness, more frequent fatigue, loss of strength, weakened immunity, and eventually an increased risk of falls and fractures. Let's ground this in science for a moment. The average adult over 60 should be consuming at least 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. That's more than the standard recommendation for younger adults. Yet studies show that up to 40% of older adults fail to meet even the minimum protein intake for their age group. And it's not just about protein, it's also about healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. These nutrients aren't luxuries. They're building blocks. When your body doesn't get them, it starts to make withdrawals from your bones, your muscles, your reserves of energy. Over time, that becomes a debt your body can't repay. But here's where it becomes philosophical. Food is not just fuel. It's also a form of communication. It tells your body that it's still growing, still healing, still worthy of investment. When you nourish yourself adequately, you're not just feeding your stomach, you're honoring your biology, affirming your strength, and participating actively in your longevity. That's a mindset shift. It means seeing nutrition not as something optional or cosmetic, but as fundamental, as vital as sleep or movement or oxygen. Now you might be thinking, I eat enough? I'm not starving myself, but I encourage you to take a closer look. Are your meals balanced? Are you prioritizing nutrient-dense foods? Are you spacing your protein intake across the day? Or are you skipping meals and then eating a big dinner? Because timing and distribution matter. Your body can't store protein for later. It needs it in real time. That means aiming for 25, 30 grams of high-quality protein at each meal, not just a protein shake once a day. And while we're on the topic, let's also acknowledge the emotional side of eating. For many older adults, food becomes less joyful over time. Eating alone, losing interest in cooking, or struggling with taste changes can all lead to undereating. That's not just a physical problem, it's a spiritual one. Because when we stop enjoying food, we stop connecting with a fundamental source of pleasure and vitality. So part of the solution is rekindling your relationship with food. Cook again, share meals with others, make it an experience, not just a routine. This is not about overeating. It's about intentional, thoughtful nourishment. It's about giving your body what it needs, not just what it can tolerate. And when you do that, when you feed yourself with care, you give your body the tools it requires to stay strong, to repair itself, to adapt, and to thrive. So let's stop thinking of food as something we cut back on as we age. Let's start thinking of it as something we lean into strategically, joyfully, and with deep respect for the role it plays in our lives. Because when you feed your body with purpose, you feed your future. And your future deserves every ounce of strength you can give it. Let's talk about something most people never associate with muscle loss: flexibility. Now, when I say that word, most people immediately think of yoga poses, stretching routines, or people who can bend in half like pretzels. But flexibility isn't about contorting your body. It's about preserving your body, especially after age 60, when our joints start to speak a little louder and our movements aren't as fluid as they once were. Flexibility becomes not just important, it becomes essential. You see, the real tragedy is not just the muscles we lose as we age, it's the way we slowly begin to avoid certain movements altogether. We stop bending over to tie our shoes. We stop reaching up for things on the top shelf. We avoid kneeling in the garden or walking uphill. Why? Because it feels stiff, because the joints ache, because our range of motion has silently, steadily declined. And when that happens, when we lose mobility, our muscles follow. What we don't move, we start to lose. Science backs this up. Studies have shown that decreased joint mobility correlates strongly with loss of muscle activation. In other words, if you can't move fully through a range of motion, you stop using certain muscle fibers, and the moment a muscle fiber stops being used, the body begins to break it down. The human body is efficient, brilliantly so, but sometimes its efficiency works against us. Use it or lose it is not just a saying, it's a law of nature. Now think about what that means over months or even years. When you stop squatting deeply, your glutes and hamstrings begin to weaken. When you stop reaching overhead, your shoulders start to lock down. When your spine loses its flexibility, your core disengages. Slowly, imperceptibly, your functional strength vanishes. Not because You didn't eat enough protein, not because you didn't go to the gym, but because you didn't move the way your body was designed to move. And here's where the psychological dimension enters. After 60, people often develop a fear of injury, and understandably so. A slip, a fall, a torn muscle can take months to recover from. So we start playing it safe, we stop pushing our limits. But in trying to avoid injury, we sometimes create the conditions for something worse, irreversible decline. The irony is, flexibility training is one of the safest, most accessible forms of exercise you can do. No gym required, no equipment needed, just consistent, gentle practice. 10 minutes in the morning, a few stretches before bed, a full body flow that you can even do sitting or lying down. It's not about touching your toes, it's about keeping your joints alive. And let's bring this into a daily practice. Every morning when you wake up, ask your body this question: what haven't I moved today? Then move it gently. Roll your shoulders, twist your spine, stretch your legs, extend your arms. Wake up the areas that have gone silent. Give your body a chance to remember what it used to do, because the body remembers. Even in your 70s, 80s, and 80s and beyond, it remembers how to bend, how to stretch, how to stay strong if you give it the opportunity. But if you don't, the consequences are clear. Limited flexibility leads to limited movement. Limited movement leads to weak muscles. Weak muscles lead to poor balance, and poor balance leads to falls. This is a domino effect that begins not with trauma, but with stillness. Flexibility is freedom. It is the freedom to move, to act, to live independently. It is the difference between getting out of a chair confidently or needing help, between walking upstairs with ease or avoiding them altogether, between enjoying your life or adapting to its limitations. So the next time you think flexibility is optional or unimportant, remember this: it's not about touching your toes. It's about touching your potential. It's about giving your body the grace and space to move fully, freely, and without fear. And that, perhaps more than any supplement or machine or protein shake, will keep your muscles alive well into your golden years. Flexibility isn't just a physical skill, it's a mindset, a commitment to keep moving through life, no matter your age. And the more you practice that mindset, the more your body will reward you. So stretch not just your limbs, but your limits. Your health depends on it.